How is a lawyer involved in the property transaction, and where should somebody get a lawyer involved when they're buying or selling a property?
For commercial as well as residential, I think the best time to get a lawyer involved, contrary to what many people think, is when you're about to submit your offer, not after you've signed your offer.
Clients don't understand, and
Yes.
sometimes realtors fail to explain this to the buyers as well, right? What does the retrofit status mean?
वो बहुत बड़ी चीज़ बढ़ सकती है because if you have a pending work order and you're assuming that property with it, you could be facing fines, not only fines from the city but remediation work.
How often do you guys find issues with the title?
1 in 1,000 is also bad because a minor slip here and there can result in something bigger.
You worked in India, you were working here. What are the key differences you find of the work culture in India? ਉੱਥੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ different ਇੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਹੈ?
When I compare it, to this work, I think I take more pressure because I don't have a safety net. ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ 'ਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀ, I had a boss. I had a partner who would review my work before it went out to the client.
ਕੀ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ purchasers and sellers they make generally on a real estate transaction?
First time home buyers, and we have so many of those these days. Their expectations are very different. It's their first home. They don't know what to expect.
Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Talk with Supreet. Today, I am with a very special person. Why? Because I personally, being a mortgage broker and a realtor, I have been working with these guys for almost 3 years now. These are the lawyers from Artemis Partners, and they have experience of almost 7 years together, Lakshay Khanna and Ripujit Randhawa. But today we're going to have only Lakshay Khanna here with us. He's going to talk about the residential and commercial real estate and all other good things that they do. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Lakshay Khanna.
Thank you so much, Supreet. Thank you so much for having me here. I think it's very special to be here, part of this series. So I feel honored to be here. Thank you so much.
I would tell you guys, whenever, actually this podcast series I have been planning to do from last 1.5 years since I opened my office in Brampton. मैं ਉਦੋਂ ਤੋਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਲਕਸ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਰਿਪੂਜੀਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ I'm going to do this, I'm going to start shooting the podcast with different people from different professions, and you guys are going to be one of the first ones who I will get it to my studio and we'll do this podcast. And here we are after 1.5 years, finally executing our plan to do the podcast and recording this series. So very, very excited to do this.
Likewise.
So Lakshay, one of the first thing I would like to ask you, tell me, who is Lakshay Khanna? How did you moved to Canada? Where are you coming from back home?
Right.
And how do you become the real estate lawyer?
So, I was born in Delhi. I'm a Delhiite and, spent almost about 12 years in Delhi. My initial 12 years in Delhi. My mother got a job in the UK, so I moved there. I stayed there for about 6 years or so. So I did I did the end of my schooling there, basically, my 11th and 12th, as one would say it. After that, I moved back to India. I did my 5-year law with BBA LLB, basically, and I went to Amity University. So had amazing 5 years. A lot of people told me you're making a very big commitment. 5 years is a long time, and that time although 5-year law courses had been there for a while, but it was still a very big commitment. I hadn't thought about doing law before. I was more interested in aeronautical sciences.
Oh, nice.
So I wanted to be an engineer. But something clicked, and I thought this is what I want to do. I'm a very curious guy, and I love reading. So I was like, what? Maybe law is the right way to go.
Oh, nice.
So that's where the journey started. 5 years, finished law school. As I was finishing law school, I got an offer to join a very renowned judge, Justice Sanghi. He was a Delhi High Court judge, retired as a Chief Justice of Uttarakhand High Court.
Very nice.
So at that time, I worked with him for about a year or so as his judicial law clerk. That was one of the most fantastic experiences of my life. It was my first job. I was working under a judge. I was observing court cases. I was researching judgments for him. I would prepare first drafts, and we would literally sit and argue about things, and it was the best time. I think that's what laid the foundation for whatever had to come from there. After finishing that for a year, I went to work for an international law firm. Now it's an international law firm. At that time, it was a domestic firm. Now
in
it's
India?
in India,
Okay.
in Delhi, and now it's called. At that time, it was called Link Legal. Now it's called Denton's Link Legal. So it's an international law firm now. And I worked as a disputes lawyer there. So I was a litigation counsel. I worked in contracts, so that's where I kind of picked up my knack for contract reviews, understanding commercial law, corporate law, as well as, disputes practice, which is litigation largely. And I think, so all in all, 3.5 years after passing law school, this happened. And I decided to challenge myself and move to Canada. So in 2019, I decided to move. And just like any person, any new immigrant in this country, we've all had our share of struggles. And I'm no, it wasn't alien to me either. This whole thing, I struggled for initial few months. It was tough. I was alone. मैं भी ਉੱਥੋਂ ਹੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਮੈਂ ਬੇਸਮੈਂਟ 'ਚ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ my first job was as a teller at TD and that was my way of making my bread and butter. ਮੈਂ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਕੀ ਉਹ ਕੀ. It's just let's get through each day as it comes. It was tough because I was alone.
Were you married at that time?
No.
Okay.
My wife now
Makes
at that
things
time.
easy if you're not married.
Exactly.
You are on your own. ਛੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੱਲਾ struggle ਕਰੇ ਉਹ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਬਜਾਏ ਕਿ wife ਦੇ ਨਾਲ. It gets harder.
I don't know. I still felt a lot of pressure because ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ successful career ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਸੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਤੇ pressure ਲੈਂਦਾ ਸੀ. I am just that kind of guy. ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਤੇ pressure ਲੈਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ I have to do something. So TD was a fantastic place to work. Although I was just a teller, I learned how the financial system works in Canada. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਸੀ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ.
Were you in Ontario?
Oh yeah, in Ontario, in Mississauga. So I was working at one of the busy branches in Mississauga.
Okay.
And बहुत कुछ सीखा मैं उत्थे. I made the best of my friends that to date I can call them for anything in life and I had a fantastic experience there. फिर मैं move किया Wells Fargo and DLL companies हैगियां, equipment leasing companies हैगियां. उत्थे I worked as a contract administrator, contract auditor, basically audited
Very
contracts
nice,
and
very
stuff. So that was kind of a step up. I wanted to get back into contracts. And all through this time, मैं अपने NC exam दिते, मैं अपना bar exam दिते. So
because you guys have to upgrade the education once you move here. Right?
Yes, and
how long is that education?
I mean,
for?
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ as short as maybe 1.5 years. I was alone. I was doing a full-time job. So ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗੇ 2 ਸਾਲ. Almost it took me. I finally got my license to practice in June 21.
How many exams are these?
So depends. ਹਰ ਬੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਡਿਪੈਂਡ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ but generally people have to give about 5 to 6 NCA exams. ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਉਹੀ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਸੀ. They're the core subjects.
If you're already a lawyer in India or wherever you are coming from.
Yes.
Otherwise, whatever the whole procedure is to become a lawyer,
I
don't know, 5-6 years it takes to become a lawyer. Then
yeah, I mean even here you have to do your bachelor's first and then you have to do your law. So India wala concept nahi hai ਇੱਥੇ 5 years law wala. It doesn't exist here. So you submit your application ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਕਰਾਣੇ ਨੇ and then basic is 5 exams. Those are the core subjects you have to do. So thankfully ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉਹੀ ਮਿਲੇ. So I got through those in single attempts. Thankfully ਕਿਉਂਕਿ full time job ਨਾਲ ਬੜਾ ਔਖਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ and I've met so many people after that, not just in law but other professions where they had to do those similar struggles. जॉब भी करनी है सब कुछ सामने and I came from a very privileged I can say background in the sense ki just like many families in India, we're not accustomed to doing many things ourselves. We don't really have to do our dishes in India, just the way things are, and हर चीज़ ਇੱਥੇ खुद ही करनी है. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਇਨ ਵੀ ਖੁਦ ਹੀ ਲਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਭਾਂਡੇ ਵੀ ਖੁਦ ਕਰਨੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਕੰਮ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੇ. You can't be late, right? You can't be 5 minutes late,
one
right?
good thing is, at least if you were doing other jobs but you were in a white collar setting,
right,
at TD, at Wells Fargo, and
right,
you get to learn the corporate culture right after coming here, right?
Exactly.
So I think that is very important as well for your
Absolutely.
self-development, that you are in a
Yes.
corporate world, you are learning the Canadian norms, Canadianizing yourself, right?
Absolutely. And
I think one period might be very tough for you because right after you came, you started doing the education and the COVID happened as well.
Yes.
So your education was going on while during
all
the
of this.
COVID?
Yes. So I think it had been a year after I had come. I had got through 3 of my NCA exams. दो हले भी बचे सी. I think नहीं हो गए सी. I'm so sorry. NCA वाले मेरे एग्जाम हो गए सी. मेरे बार एग्जाम पे सी. So in Canada, of course, in Ontario, you have to give a solicitor and a barrister exam after you clear your NCAs. NCAs only make you like LLB equivalent in Canada.
Okay.
ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਬਾਰ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮ ਦੇਣੇ ਪੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ just like any other Canadian law student. So ਉਹ ਬਾਰ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੇ yes, I was working full time. ਤੇ COVID ਵੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਤੇ we have to change a lot of things. We still had to go to work. We had to physically distance ourselves. बहुत ਔਖਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ. We had to manage people because ਹਰ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ banking ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਆਦਤ ਸੀਗੀ, to come into the branch to do things, and at that time I was in TD. So to limit, and the ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ bank ਦੇ ਬਾਹਰ. I can't forget that time, managing people became very stressful. So you're doing your normal day-to-day role, but you're trying to also manage people. And you have to manage them very compassionately because us time, people were getting sick. People were losing people, that they love. So ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ difficult time ਸੀਗਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਵੀ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਵੀ, but I think every bad time teaches you something good, right? So I think the biggest thing I can credit all of that experience, and not just COVID, but I think humility. ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ. ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ. I learned the true value of many things, and yeah, so that's and then yes, I gave my bar exams, and So
you finished your education in 2021?
2021, yes. I got my license to practice law.
Okay. And then you started your own practice? You worked?
No, I was still working at Wells Fargo. I was still unsure because I just wanted to get my qualification. I was still unsure whether I want to move into opening my own practice. It's a huge step for any lawyer, and I think so many lawyers out there, would connect me, and especially the newer ones, who've opened the practice in the sort of past 5 years. It's not easy. It's so tough, and I'm not just saying it from business perspective. You have to ensure you're compliant all the time. It's not like nahi honda jive India ch honda. Like, I'll just be very honest. You have to follow strict regulations, LSO de, Law Society de, and you have to ensure that at all times you're at your best. You can't let anything happening in the background or your personal life or anything come towards your work. I think वो बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है.
It is a very big thing, and especially I think as a lawyer, most of the time what I have seen here in Canada, most of the real estate lawyers are self-employed, and most of them are kind of working alone.
Right.
So how did you come across your partner, Pujit Singh, and what came to your mind to start a firm, into a partnership, and eventually form Artemis Partners?
Okay, well, so after June, I did apply to many law firms. I'll be very honest, and I didn't get the responses I wanted. I didn't succeed in what I wanted to get. Let's just put it that way. And I had a vision for my career. I had a vision towards what I wanted to do. And, one of our common friend, I was talking to her one day. I was very frustrated. I really did want to practice as a lawyer now by this stage. And it was mid-December 2021. And she said, you know what, why don't you ask Pujit? I think he's.
So you guys met through a common friend.
Well, we actually met when we were preparing for our bar exam.
Okay.
So we were in the same study group, and but we'd not spoken a lot. It was just hi, hello, and then just normal stuff. How's life? How's just generally things going? So we didn't even know each other that well. But I took the courage. I was like, what's the worst that'll happen? He'll just tell me, he's trying to start something else, or he's going to work somewhere else. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? So I gave him a call, and he's like, what? Yeah, let's do it. And let's it's still the next like 2-3 months. Let's spend some time getting to know each other before we start something. I was like, fantastic. So we spent about 2-3 months getting to know each other well, to understand what vision we have for the business we want to start. And when we just say business, it sounds like a very dry term. But I think for any person who, and you including, anyone who started their own work, their own office, understands the emotion behind it. I think that's the biggest thing.
It's very hard to work in a partnership as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have to have a right mindset, like-minded people sitting beside each other.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So if you're going to work day and night, it's just like you're getting into a relationship.
Absolutely,
you're marrying.
It's a work marriage.
Right? It's a work marriage.
It's a work marriage. You have to get along. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਦੂਜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੇ and it's not just getting along. ਹਰ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ strength and weakness ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ. ਮੇਰੇ ਚ ਵੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਕੁਝ strengths ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, weaknesses ਹੈਗੀਆਂ. ਰਿਪੂ ਜੀ is the same way. ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੀ strengths and weaknesses ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ. It's at the end of the day, two people can't be alike. They'll have different things. They'll have different ways of working. But you have to think about compatibility. ਕਿ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ. How well you can get along to get things done.
You have to be compatible. You have to complement each other.
Absolutely.
You cannot ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਚਣੇ ਦੇ ਝਾੜ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੜਾਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ, ਤਾਰੀਫਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ. Otherwise, you guys will make mistakes and you don't know when to pull back, right?
Exactly.
So you have to watch out for each other as well.
Right. And I think sab to vadi gal, that I noticed when I was getting to know him is, he wouldn't take things on his ego. So and I think to a large extent, I think मैं भी ਇਹ ਜਿਹੀ ਹਾਂ. I hope he would say the same. ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੀ ਜੇ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਕੱਢਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ, ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ that ਇਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਗਲਤੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਕੱਢ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, or we don't take it like that. I think we take it in stride, like, okay, you know what, he's doing this for my betterment, because at the end of the day, every client is our client. So ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਦਾ and he finds a mistake, then it's not ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੀ ਗਲਤੀ ਕੱਢਣ ਲਈ ਕੱਢੀ ਹੈ. No, it's because we have to provide a service to a client. And at the end of the day,
we're serving the client.
Exactly. Right? And it doesn't matter if he's the lawyer, or I am the lawyer. At the end of the day, Artemis Partners is the law firm. And, we may be the face to the client, but at the end of the day, that's our work, that's our business. And I think
there is a reputation that you guys are carrying, right?
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, no one should ever have to come back and say, kam chaj da nahi hoya, because that's not us. That's not why we started this. We started this because we want to provide a certain level of service, and we want to stand behind it. That's the biggest part. So kam ta sare karde ne. There are so many talented people. There's so many hardworking people in our profession and in your profession, every profession, right? I think to make yourself stand apart, I think the only way is to offer the best service you possibly can. So I think at the end of the day, that's what we've been trying to do for the last 3.5 years.
There are always limitations. We have to sometimes pull back, but I think we gotta try our best and keep our intentions clear whenever we are serving any client.
Absolutely.
I think we've been working together since your inception, right?
Yes.
Almost 3 years or so, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we have done many real estate transactions together, few of the business transactions as well. What else you guys do other than real estate law? I haven't really come across other services that you guys provide. So would you like to highlight?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, we work together on residential real estate a lot. So apart from that, we also do commercial real estate. So that's when you're actually buying a commercial property. So that's kind of the difference between commercial and, let's say, residential. But there's also a difference between corporate law. So people buy and sell businesses. So we call them asset purchases or private mergers and acquisitions. So people do asset purchases. They do share purchases. So slight differences, but largely buying and selling businesses, including franchises. So we do a lot of that as well. And then we do wills and estates as well. So residential real estate is, about, I would say, 40% of what we do.
Really?
So
Okay.
the others.
So there is a lot more to Artemis Partners that I'm missing. And
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, corporate is something that I really love. I really, especially because recently I've gotten clients who are their first time getting into businesses, and it's exciting. And that really, really excites me because there's a joy, there is an excitement that they feel that I felt when I started work, when I started this venture. So whether it's a hair salon, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's, something even bigger than that, or whether it's a tech startup. So right now, I'm, assisting a client who's a tech startup, and it's interesting, to understand their visions, the journey they want to take. So assisting them with, for example, shareholder agreements. It's exciting work, and yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Let's start from the basics. Let's talk about the real estate law. How is a lawyer involved in the property transaction, and where should somebody get a lawyer involved when they're buying or selling a property?
For commercial as well as residential, I think the best time to get a lawyer involved, contrary to what many people think, is when you're about to submit your offer, not after you've signed your offer. And there is a reason for this. There's a very good reason for this, because you're relying on a realtor, which is a very good thing. If you have a good, capable realtor who's gone on property visits with you, they've seen the property, they know everything is good, everything looks up to code. They've advised their clients, regarding the property. That's fine. You can submit your offer. But my recommendation is that show it to a lawyer. It'll take, the lawyer just, maybe 10-15 minutes to review the document. I think that's invaluable. Because J for any reason, kuch bhi miss hoya hai. Koi bhi protection clauses, I say protection clauses because those clauses can help the buyer, or the seller, whomever you're representing, pull back from the deal should things go south. And things can go south. At the end of the day, transaction hundi hai. We have to, as lawyers, the way we think is we have to cover our bases. Because at the end of the day, you don't want the client to, get a property that ultimately is not beneficial to them. Yeah, wo cheez unhone nahi chahiye thi, right? So I think getting the lawyer involved as early as possible is a very good thing. And I can give you, time permitting, if I can give you a very small example. Many people, I've come across many transactions where realtors found things that, needed fixing before closing. They आपस में उन्होंने verbally ਗੱਲ कर ली, and there is sort of good faith negotiations happening. But agreement, कुछ नहीं आया. Towards the closing, the seller backs out. The purchaser, is left with fixing those repairs. Now, it may not be a big deal, but to a first-time home buyer, it is a big deal. So, I have then seen certain agreements where they did put repair clauses, but those were not done, and instead likhya si ki bhai reasonable compensation tusi deoge. Now that's a very gray area. What is reasonable compensation? वो कहेगा नहीं मैंने $500 दियो, वो कहेगा मैंने $100 दियो. Again, it's not about the dollar value. It's more to do with the fact that many people who are first time home buyers, or even not, they get a bad taste. And we don't want that. Realtors don't want that. Mortgage brokers don't want that. Lawyers don't want that. Because at the end of the day, you don't want your client going away with that bad experience. So I think the earlier you involve a lawyer, the better it is. They can just give you 2 cents of advice that you may not have thought of. Your realtor may not have thought of. So there's no harm in doing that.
Yeah, and I think especially in case of the condominiums and stuff, you guys have to do the status certificate verification and all.
Yes.
Advise the client as well if there's anything wrong. And,
absolutely.
there's sometime in some cases there are conditional periods as well.
Yes.
If there is anything, they can always pull back during that conditional period.
Absolutely. And it's so crucial, Supreet, so crucial. If I can give you an example of that too. I recently did a status certificate review, and the status certificate said that there was Kitec plumbing in the property, in the condominium building. It hasn't failed yet. Mm-hmm. But Kitec plumbing has a tendency to fail sooner than other kinds of plumbing. And,
this is only found in the old buildings, not in the new ones.
Well, this, I think, you're right. But it's not in the early 90s, but sort of in the last 25 years, though. Yeah. So there was, I think, this 5-6 years maybe when Kitec plumbing became the go-to thing for the developers. Mm-hmm. I honestly advise my client, like, listen, it's your call at the end of the day. But my recommendation is that, if you are prepared to buy this property, keep some money aside, because tomorrow, if the Kitec plumbing fails and, the building is required to change the whole plumbing, it's going to be a very big cost.
It's going to be a big cost.
I obviously cannot ascertain what the cost will be, but it'll be a very big figure. And only prepare to go forward if you want to. So I think that's where, the client was very thankful of me. He's like, what, I appreciate you telling me this. And he didn't move forward with that property, and, he's going to look for something else. But I think that's a classic example of why you need to get lawyer involved as soon as possible. And status review, it's an absolute must. You cannot close a condominium without a status review from a solicitor.
What are the other things that you guys do during the whole real estate transaction?
Right. So once we do get the transaction, once we have spoken to our client and, done the formalities and stuff, our work generally starts with the title searches. So title search is a process where we do a lot of due diligence. We look at the title of the property, a lot of legal due diligence, planning act, all of that we have to check. Whether the property is freehold, if it's a part of tied lot property, which basically is freehold properties, but they have common elements that they have to pay $100, $200 to do road maintenance and all of that. So we have to do a little bit due diligence on that. We do a little bit due diligence on the sellers, whether there are any outstanding judgments against them. A lot of in-depth review of the title and everything. And then we advise our client. We let them know that this is what we found on the title. This is normal and this is not normal.
How often do you guys find issues with the title?
I would say very, very few times. 1 in 1,000 is also bad. Right? Yeah. Because a minor slip here and there can result in something bigger. Right? So for example, if I'm representing a purchaser and there's a judgment standing against the seller, and the seller doesn't have enough money to pay it off, technically
the transaction cannot be closed.
It cannot be closed exactly
at the closing date.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So title searches is an absolute crucial step of our process. Then when we get the mortgage instructions, we review it thoroughly to ensure that we are compliant with what the lender has asked us to do, and we submit certain documentation to them. And then comes the fun part of the closing. So we let the client know about their closing costs and proceed with the closing of the transaction.
So I guess you guys have to work with the bank as well in order to
yes.
look at all the conditions and stuff.
Yes,
right, before the closing.
Absolutely. Because in transactions like refinances, we can sometimes have several debts that we have to pay off on behalf of our client, and that's a very crucial step because we have to follow the instructions of the bank. I know you have done some great work consolidating debt for so many clients. We've worked on those refinances. It's always a good thing to do that too, because you feel happy sometimes, when you're paying off those debts for the client when you're refinancing.
Many times it's sad that from the client's perspective, they always think realtors and mortgage brokers are the one who are putting so much effort into the transaction, and lawyers are just doing the paperwork. But they don't know how much work is going behind the scenes, because lawyers are the one who generally like to just shut their mouth, do things in the background, not have that much interaction with the client, and then their work mostly gets undermined. But whenever there are actual real issues with their transactions, they are the one who are actually helping the clients. And I think in general, I know that I've worked with A lender, B lender, C lenders. Usually with the A lender, CIBC, TD, RBC banks, it's not that much of a conditions that you guys have to go through, but especially working with the B lender is quite tough, right?
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
There are so many conditions that you guys have to fulfill on your side. And the private lenders as well. In some cases, they're very stringent on how the signing has to be done, and all those things, conditions have to be met in a certain way, which A lenders might not be very, tough on.
Yeah.
But so that puts you guys into a very tough situation in some cases, right?
I think, to be honest, Supreet, it's about managing timelines and managing, the documents that we have to submit in each transaction. So A lenders generally require the same amount of documents. It's just that it's not that they're less stringent. For most A lenders, we have to submit those documents after the closing. And for B lenders, we have to submit it to them prior to closing. So, but we still have those documents by the time we close. And I can give you an example. B lender will ask for fire insurance of the property preemptively before closing. A lender, on the other hand, has instructed us to obtain it before we disperse the funds to the seller's lawyer. So we will provide the fire insurance to the A lender as well, but just after the closing.
Just after.
So we still have to keep that document and then give it to them with our final report. But the point is that the documents largely are the same. It's just that for A lender, we start to manage the transaction about 5 business days before the closing. But for B lender, we have to start 2 weeks earlier. To ensure that, they get all the documents, they have reviewed all the documents, and the transaction's ready to fund. It is a lot of work though. Yes.
And in case of private lenders, sometimes we're closing the transaction within 24 hours or 48 hours. At that time, there is a gun pointed to your head. Both by the mortgage brokers and by the realtors and by the client. कदों हो रही है ट्रांजैक्शन क्लोज
हाँ जी बिल्कुल एंड पता ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਬਾਕੀ ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਮੈਨੇਜ ਕਰੀਏ ਕੀ ਕਰੀਏ ਬਟ ਕਲਾਇੰਟ ਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਕੰਪੈਸ਼ਨੇਟਲੀ ਟਰੀਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਜੋ ਬੰਦਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਪੈਸੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਨੇ ਦ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਇਜ਼ ਨਾਟ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਟੂ ਮੀ ਆਈ ਡੋਂਟ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਗੈਟ ਇਨਟੂ ਦੈਟ ਬਟ ਆਈ ਨੋ ਦੈਟ ਦ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਇਜ਼ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਫॉर द ਕਲਾਇੰਟ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਾੜੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਨੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਪੈਸੇ so then you have to think about it like that. You have to think like them. That's the way you can offer them good service. You have to think like them.
Put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Exactly. ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ ਰੱਖੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ we have to keep the client engaged through the entire process of closing. ਜਦੋਂ ਸਰਚਾਂ ਹੋਣੀਆਂ ਨੇ when we do title searches, we do discuss it with the client. And I think ਉਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ client engaged ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ client ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ restrictive covenants ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ easements ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ many clients will not know. So it's very important for the clients to know these things ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ knowledge ਠੀਕ ਰਹੇ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਘਰੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ restrictive covenant ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਦਾ brick color house ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ blue paint ਕਰਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ if there is a restrictive covenant on the property, they can't do it. So you have to provide them that. You have to give them that knowledge. You have to give them that document so that they are aware of it. So they are compliant with the law. So I think many people miss that, and I think that's very crucial.
That's very crucial. Yeah.
Because if I was a client, if I was a home buyer, I would want to know that. So that's how we've thought over the last sort of 3.5 years.
What does a normal day look like for you guys?
Normal day changes because there is no normal day for us because every day is different for us.
Fighting fires every day.
Every day. I think most of the days when we know we have to get our head straight, it's going to be a tough day. I think we start about around 8:30 in the morning. 8:30 in the morning.
So you guys are in the office at 8:30?
Yes. Okay. We have to be in office because ਸਾਡਾ ਇੱਕ ritual ਹੈਗਾ. ਐਂਡ ਸਾਡਾ ਰਿਚੁਅਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਜੋ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ
ਵੈਰੀ ਨਾਈਸ
ਰਿਗਾਰਡਲੈਸ ਆਫ ਵਾਟ ਟਾਈਮ ਵੀ ਆਰ ਕਮਿੰਗ ਟੂ ਦੀ ਆਫਿਸ
ਕਦੀ ਵਾਈਫ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਪੀਤੀ ਹੈ
ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਵੀਕਐਂਡ ਤੇ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਚਾਹ
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ
ਅਦਰਵਾਈਜ਼ ਸਾਡਾ ਰੀਲੀ ਡੇਲੀ ਡੋਜ਼ ਆਫ ਕਾਫੀ ਹੈਜ਼ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਇਨ ਦੀ ਆਫਿਸ ਦੈਟਸ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਦ ਟਾਈਮ ਵੀ ਸਪੈਂਡ getting ready for the day. ਆਪਾਂ by the way ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ because we live close by so one of us picks the other one and ਆਪਾਂ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਮਾਰਦੇ ਆਫਿਸ ਪਹੁੰਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ we pick our coffee from Tim Hortons every morning. It's a routine and the Tim Horton guys know us very well now so they know our order well and everything. So anyway we get to office and we spend some time just talking about general things, how was last night, how was, whatever. And बहुत ही general गल्ला करते हैं. And as the coffee is finishing up, that's when we start thinking about work. So he to-do list shuru honda है just like everyone else, but there's no normal day. There's no normal day for us. Sometimes we think we're heading into a very calm day and it it becomes a very turbulent day because there is a fire we have to fight. But I mean, definitely by 9:30 we're in the office, come what may. But yeah, there are certain days we have to start pretty early, just to get ready for the day.
I think in general, like whenever the days you guys have a closing planned for the clients,
right,
those are the days that are probably the tougher than the other days.
Yes.
Right?
In fact, the days leading up to the closing are much tougher than the actual closing day. Because we have to get everything ready for that day, right? So we have to get ready, with the closing funds. You have to see the documents. You have to get it signed from the clients, explain everything to the clients. So the days leading to the closing are busy, definitely.
Those are busier.
Because on the closing day, it's just the final formalities and, the final registrations, the final checking of everything is done right before we register. But if we do have multiple, and that does happen quite often, we have multiple closings on the same day, that can really, add the work up. Different kind of closings also increases the workload. So, residential real estate हैगी है पर ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ commercial भी हैगी है या business closing हैगी है, asset purchase closing हैगी है या franchise closing हैगी है, ਉਹ ਥੋੜਾ workload ਵਧਾ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ because business closing is very different from a real estate closing. ਉਹ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ to a certain and to ensure that they're done before closing. So ਉਹਦਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਕੰਮ ਹੈਗਾ. And those days become very hectic days for sure.
You worked in India, you were working here. What are the key differences you find of the work culture in India? ਉੱਥੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ different ਇੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਹੈ? Let's take the Ripujit part out. I know you guys are very close because you guys live close by. You just told me you guys are sharing the ride as well. ਅਗਰ ਇੱਕ your partner ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਲੱਗ ਕਰ ਦਈਏ ਤੇ how's the work culture different and overall from the pressure and work perspective ਕੀ differences ਹੈ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਤੇ
I think and ਮੈਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਸੈਂਸਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਾਂਗਾ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ I still have my colleagues in my network ਜੋ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਚ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ
it's unfiltered talk with Supreet, right? filter side ਦੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ
I think I had very long working hours in India to a certain extent. ਮੇਰੀ ਟੀਮ ਬਹੁਤ ਚੰਗੀ ਸੀਗੀ. I had a very great boss who taught me very well. I had very good seniors, and I think there was a lot of work pressure as well. Very high stakes, matters. I worked with one of the biggest infrastructure clients in India. One of the arbitrations hundiyan si, contract reviews hunde si, disputes hunde si. I was traveling all over India a lot. So there was a lot of travel involved. I think there were times in 1 week I was in 3 different cities. There were times like that in 2018. So there were definitely long hours of work. But I was blessed with a great team, even at that time. When I compare it, to this work, I think I take more pressure because I don't have a safety net. Okay. Jadon main India ch kam karda si, I had a boss. I had a partner who would review my work before it went out to the client. So mere andar ek safety net siga kyunki main thoda junior siga.
Front facing, you are
exactly
tusi jawab de you
exactly so I am responsible, and there's nothing after that. So whatever leaves my desk and goes to the client, that's it. This is
you have more pressure on your mind.
Exactly. So there's more pressure that way, but again blessed with a great office environment again. Ripujit is fantastic to work with. Sada office da environment bahut light rehanda hai. Appa jado stress vi hunde hain te appa we try to keep it light. Appa ek duje nu thoda ja cheer up kar denne kisi bhi cheez de lai. So I think through thick and thin, I think we're always there and we can count on each other. And that's honestly something that I could do even in India when I practiced there. But yes, the biggest difference is कि ਉੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਸੀਗਾ ਜੋ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੰਮ ਚੈੱਕ ਕਰਕੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਲਾਇੰਟ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਗਾ. But here I'm responsible for it.
ਗਲਤੀ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਰੂਮ ਸੀਗਾ ਉੱਥੇ
ਗਲਤੀ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਰੂਮ ਇੱਥੇ ਰੂਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ. ਇੱਥੇ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਰੂਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ. And I have to do the client management, a lot of it myself too, right? Because ਉੱਥੇ the partner can take care of it. But here I am the guy. I am that guy who has to take care of it. So I think that plays a very big part.
No, one thing I will say for sure that working with you guys from last 3 years, you guys are very approachable.
Right.
Like morning 6 ਵਜੇ 7 ਵਜੇ ਰਾਤ ਦੇ 10 ਵਜੇ I can call you guys and ਹਾਂਜੀ ਭਾਜੀ ਕੀ ਹਾਲ ਹੈ ਦੱਸੋ ਹੁਕਮ ਕਰੋ. Just last night by mistake I messaged Ripujit. I was sending message to somebody else and I deleted it.
Right.
I didn't expect he's gonna message back. But
Right.
राती 12 बजे message कर रहा है.
हाँ जी.
हाँ जी पाजी हुक्म करो.
हाँ जी.
Like, no, I don't expect you to reply back
Right.
to me. Right.
Right.
And it was a work-related message that
हाँ जी.
one of the client and I, we were chatting, and by mistake I sent it to him, and he's like, even though I deleted the message, he's like,
Right.
yeah, up for it.
Right.
Like, hukam karo. Answer kariye. So that is very commendable thing for you guys, that you guys are very approachable, and I've seen that, I've heard that feedback from clients as well.
Yes.
That always you're there for the clients.
I'm so happy to hear that, Supreet. I
Yeah.
honestly am, because feedback is very important. And the reason I'm so happy to hear this is because this was our vision. जो 3.5 साल 3.5 साल पहला जो काम शुरू कीता है, यही सोच के कीता सी that we have to be different, we have to be approachable. And clients ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਬੋਲਦਾ, and I know Ripu ji does the same, कि there is nothing called small question or a silly question. ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਸਵਾਲ ਆਇਆ ਹੈ, it's an important question. At the end of the day, I have to answer that. I have failed in my job if I didn't allow you to ask me a question. You should be able to ask me a question. Just like you would any normal person. नहीं कि पता नहीं ये बंदा मेरे बारे की सोचेगा. No, that, it has to be unfiltered. Because I need to know what you're thinking to be able to help you better.
It's better to ask those questions now.
Absolutely.
Or later, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਸ਼ਤੀ ਨਿਕਲ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ transaction close ਕਰਤੀ, and if for some
Yes.
reason you wanted to back out,
Yes.
it might be too late by that time.
Absolutely.
How is it like working in Oakville? Do you like the city? Like, I have always personally wanted you guys to come to Brampton and
Right.
maybe move into my office and work with me.
I mean, nothing wrong with any other place in the world. Nothing wrong with Brampton or any other place. I think Oakville has a charm that has attracted us, from the beginning. It's, closer to the lake. There's a trail there.
You guys are right on Lakeshore.
Right, we're
The
right on
Falcon
Lakeshore Road, and we're
Lakeshore,
right
yeah.
downtown Oakville.
Yeah.
And the best part about it is, it's the convenience for us. We have all the banks nearby, and they all know us very well. So साडा एक relationship बढ़ गया उत्थे.
Yeah.
And जब भी stress होता है, कुछ दिमाग च होता है, stress ना भी होए, lunch करके बंदा walk ते चला जाता है, ते you enjoy, that life. I think work life, it's very very important. It's so crucial for us. कई बार ਆਪਾਂ सोचते हैं कि थोड़ा जिहा ਵੱਡਾ ਹੋਰ office ਲੈ ਲਈਏ, let's add something, maybe we should now have an office with a little bit of more space and this and that. I think ਥਾਂ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਉਨੀ ਘੱਟ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਹੈ, ਗੰਦ ਪਾਉਣ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਥਾਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ. So we think ਇੱਥੋਂ ਜਾਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ. We can't leave Oakville.
Yeah.
It's very very tough. We love the lake. We
should look for a bigger office in
there.
Oakville. On
On
lake,
Lakeshore,
yeah,
exactly.
on Lakeshore Road,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Find a space for me as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe I'll decide to move to
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ
Oakville.
exactly ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਘੱਟ ਆਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਨਾ. Right now you come, you have to drive all the way.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to do that. You're right there.
ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਹੋਰ 2-3 ਸਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ move ਕਰ ਜਾਵਾਂਗਾ.
Perfect buddy. Because it's such a beautiful city. It has so much to offer. Sometimes we and Ripujit, when we're taking a walk, we look at the lake, and it might sound very very silly, but every day the view is different. The colors are different.
I hear that.
So
my wife, she actually works from home, so every second third day when I go home, she's like, chalo baar chaliye.
Right.
And at least once a week we come down to Oakville downtown.
Right.
We go, there are all these small cafes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Food is so amazing.
Yes,
ठीक है?
you get everything there.
The European culture, एक जो vibe मिलती है, especially in the summers, right?
Hanji.
Even if there are sports cars passing by and all,
Right.
it's not like कि कोई loud music, कोई इतना नहीं होता कि annoyance वाली गल नहीं आती.
Right.
People are very respectful.
Absolutely.
You
yes.
go down to the lake, thoda
Yes.
walk karo बच्चियां दे नाल. There are happy faces,
Yep.
right? Families cheering up and all.
Yes.
It has a special, thing in my heart and my
Right.
mind as well, and for my family, and we love going down there.
Right.
And I'll tell you, like, honestly,
Yes.
no jokes, at least once a week we go there, we do either lunch or dinner, and
Right.
we enjoy our walk
Right.
on the lake. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's Indian, whether it's cafes, whether it's Italian, हर
हर
cuisine
चीज़,
मिलोगे
yeah,
उत्थे,
yeah, yeah.
and it's just so beautiful. And I know you mentioned summer, but fall and winter in Oakville is beautiful as well. The main, the Lakeshore Road, बहुत सोहनी सजाई होंदी है. So no matter what season, Oakville stays beautiful.
Oakville is beautiful. One thing again we hate about winters in Canada is 5 ਵਜੇ ਹਨੇਰਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਪਰ ਵੀਕਐਂਡ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਰੌਣਕ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ so so that's the beauty of it. I don't think we can I wouldn't even go as far as saying we can move anywhere else in Oakville. I think Lakeshore ਤੋਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ. I think we're so used to that life. We're so used to taking a walk once a day, time permitting, de-stress ourselves and have whatever conversation we need to have. And I think that's the beauty of having the office.
That's
there.
amazing. Let me come back to the topic. Let me ask you a few questions related to the transaction, and especially things that can help our clients right overall. ਕੀ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ purchasers and sellers they make generally on a real estate transaction?
With respect to the purchasers, I think it can start with, like I mentioned before, the repair clauses, for example, and that's
we talked about it.
That's a very big pain point for many purchasers, when the property is not up to the mark, let's say. Broom swept condition is a very
very
shifty,
vague or very
vague term. It's a what we would call a slippery slope. Like you don't know what is a broom swept condition. One would, especially the first time home buyers, and we have so many of those these days, their expectations are very different. It's their first home. They don't know what to expect. And to see broken things and this and that is, I think that's a very big pain point. It could be regarding some code violations. So there could be an illegal basement, for example.
Okay.
Very big pain point again. पता होना चाहिए कि permit हैगा नहीं हैगा, कोई work orders सिगे नहीं सिगे. Very, very important.
I think work orders are very important, right?
Absolutely.
If there were some big issues in the past, the city ne koi work order detta. Generally, those things are very hard to find out just from the listing. And Realtors ne bhi listing lagayi hundi hai, even though ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ mention ਕੀਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, retrofit status of the basement.
Right.
Sometimes clients don't understand, and sometimes realtors fail to explain this to the buyers as well, right? What does the retrofit status mean? So
absolutely.
Then maybe it becomes ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ realtor ਨੇ miss ਕਰਤੀ ਉਹ ਜਾਂ broker ਜਾਂ lawyer ਸਮਝਾਏ client.
Exactly. And ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ because if you have a pending work order and you're assuming that property with it, you could be facing fines, not only fines from the city, but remediation work, right? And all liability फिर ਤੁਹਾਡੇ client ਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਜੇ वो purchase ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ property. Another work order related work is people build decks in their backyards. There are regulations with respect to decks. If they're touching your property, if they're touching the actual dwelling, ਕਿੰਨਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਕੀ requirements ਨੇ,
height ਦੀ requirement ਵੀ,
height ਦੀ, and so many other requirements, and you need to have a permit for something as simple as a deck. So many people don't know that. So ਜੇ ਉਹ property ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ again which has a deck and that deck is not compliant, there could be issues later on. So ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਛੋਟੀ ਛੋਟੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ, people don't realize, but it can become very, very big pain points when prior to closing or at the time of closing. I think from the seller's point, work orders can become a very big problem because if they're selling a property, which has anything that is not up to the code, it can become a very big problem.
ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਮੇਰੇ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਰਿਟਸ ਦੀ, and writ is something sometime I wouldn't know ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਉੱਤੇ writ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਤੇ ਹੈ, because especially ਆਪਣੀ community middle name ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ same ਹੈ, and ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ from Sikh community middle name Singh ਹੈ, ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ last name ਵੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਲਾਇਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਸੁਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੀ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ, ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਜੀ, ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਸੁਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਤੇ writ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਦਿਖਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, and that could delay the closing. So can sellers figure those things out beforehand as well?
Yes, they can, but it generally doesn't happen because it's ਉਹ practically ਹੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾਉਂਦਾ because ਉਹ writ system ਦਾ search ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ. Of course they can get the lawyer to do it. It's a very small cost. You can do it before putting the property up for sale. For sure you can get that done. You can in fact ask your closing lawyer before you get the realtor to put the property up, to just do a preliminary search of this, all of these things. And many people don't do that. They can definitely ask their lawyer to do it. Let's cover the writ in a specific way. So first, for example, je ta thode ਨਾਂ ਦੀ writ ਨਿਕਲੀ ਹੈ, there are two possible outcomes. One is it is actually you.
It is actually you.
It is actually you who who's the actual debtor.
In general, अगर किसी ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਊਗਾ,
ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ.
They might not tell the lawyer, they might not tell their realtor, but ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਤਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਡੈਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਜਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ.
Absolutely. And no matter how many times it can happen, it still comes as a shock for us because ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, client ਨਹੀਂ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ and writ ਨਿਕਲਦੀ ਹੈ, and then you ask your client and that's when you come to know ਕਿ ਉਹ ਨਿਕਲੀ ਹੈ. So of course in that situation, we have to see whether we'll have enough funds from the sale to satisfy that writ against that creditor. ਜੇ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਤੇ we it's a different thing altogether. Many a times when the writ obviously doesn't belong to that person, ਤਾਂ of course depending on what's the amount of that rate, 50,000 ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਹੈ, 50,000 ਤੋਂ ਥੱਲੇ ਹੈ, we have to follow certain guidelines and obtain what we call writ clearance certificates or affidavits to ensure that those are followed.
Any other issues that you have seen for the sellers?
Largely no. I think it can happen in estate sales. ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ because lack of knowledge on part of the client and the realtors putting the property up for sale. And while I say this, I am not saying that there is an expectation for a layman or even a realtor to know in estate matters how the property is to be sold, but I think lawyer needs to be consulted right before even thinking about putting the property up for sale, because if the property requires a probate, that can be a lengthy process. Depending on which court, it can take months. So probate matters 100%. The title has to be looked into much prior to even putting the property up for sale. Yeah, so that's a very big thing.
COVID ਦੇ time ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਸਡਨਲੀ ਇੰਨੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਵੱਧ ਗਏ, ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਿਆ ਹੈ? ਹੈਜ਼ ਯੂ ਗਾਇਜ਼ ਬੀਨ ਇੰਪੈਕਟਡ ਫਰੋਮ ਦਾ ਪਰਸਪੈਕਟਿਵ ਆਫ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੀਸਾਂ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਧ ਗਈਆਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਰੀਅਲਟਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨਾਂ ਵਧੀਆਂ?
No. Our fees have remained the same. and I think it circles back to what you said. Clients ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. So although we do a lot of work, our fees have remained the same. From when we started till even now.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I would say, we've seen the ups and downs, more downs, but I think it's steadily climbing. I think बहुत ज़्यादा negative sentiment market ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗਾ real estate ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ,
especially now that the prices are going down.
Yes, and I think
interest rate went up a lot. And
absolutely, and I don't agree with that. I think real estate ਲਈ positive sentiment ਹੋਣਾ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ, because at the end of the day, it is the backbone of, I feel at least it's a backbone of Canadian economy. I still think, there are so many people out there who have not bought their first homes. There are so many people who are wanting to upgrade or, who are wanting to make more real estate investments. I think koi bhi, any person, no matter the demographic, no matter their financial status, I think real estate investment, whether it's your principal residence or otherwise, is a fantastic investment. Yes, there are times they're going to go, the market's going to go up. There are times it's going to go down. And that happens with everything. Stocks go up and down as well. Real estate goes up and down as well. So I know there's been a negative sentiment, but I think people need to see real estate in positive light, especially first-time home buyers.
But I'm sure because 2020, 22 ਫੈਬਰੂਰੀ ਤੱਕ ਵੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੀ ਕੰਸਟਰਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਘਰ ਬੁੱਕ ਕੀਤੇ, ਹੁਣ ਲੋਕੀ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਬੁੱਕ ਕਲੋਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਵਾ ਪਾ ਰਹੇ.
Right.
ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ 10%, 15% ਡਿਪੋਜ਼ਿਟ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਇਨ ਸਮ ਕੇਸਿਸ 20% ਡਿਪੋਜ਼ਿਟ ਵੀ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਰਾਈਟ? 2-2 ਲੱਖ, 3-3 ਲੱਖ dollar deposit ਦਿੱਤਾ. Now in order to fund rest of the mortgage, banks are not lending them ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ prices ਥੱਲੇ ਚਲੇ ਗਏ ਨੇ, appraisal ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ. So there is a lot of negative sentiment in the market as well. People are financially very stressed, right? So ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ does all that stress comes to you as well? Like clients ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸਟੋਰੀਆਂ ਸੁਣਾਉਂਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਸੁਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ.
Yes, absolutely.
Like people I have had people come to my office and like bawling, crying, help us. Like ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰੀਏ ਹੁਣ
Right.
ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਤਾਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣੇ ਹਨਾ
Right.
ਐਂਡ that too like if bank is not funding the mortgage $1 million ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ $1 million ਆਪਣੀ ਜੇਬ ਚੋਂ ਤਾਂ
Right.
ਮੈਂ ਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣਾ right are you seeing all that stress on your side as well
Absolutely, we are, Subhadeep. We are, and especially jithe builder properties ne, the client is already under so much financial stress. The bank to bhi appraisal pura nahi aa raha hai. We have actually been able to many a times negotiate a little bit with the builder. Of course, that's a guarantee we can never give any client. ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ guarantee ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਦੂਜੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਤੇ ਵੀ matter ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ builder ਤੇ matter ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ whether they're willing to budge. We've been able to extend closings for up to 5 months even in some cases, successfully without any big cost to the client, just because, client wasn't able to financially, do anything at that point. So we of course get all those stories, and it is disheartening. ਬਹੁਤ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਵੀ financial ਕੋਈ ਵੀ distress ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦਾ but we have to do our best to problem solve whatever we can, because at the end of the day that's why that person's coming in front of me and telling me all of that,
and do everything that is in our powers, right?
Absolutely.
At least
Absolutely.
builder ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ email ਕਰਕੇ ਤਾਂ ਦੇਖ ਹੀ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ 2 ਵਾਰੀ 3 ਵਾਰੀ nudge ਕਰੋ
I think we go beyond that email. I think sometimes we go into pleading mode. ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ let's go a step further. ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਊ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ, because that's very important. ਜੋ ਬੰਦਾ ਫਸਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਫਸਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, right? And that's why they're talking to you and telling you these things. So yes, we do what we can, and we have certainly faced that. I think because of this negative sentiment, a lot of times sales which people are not leaving property, like I said, up to the mark, think that the appliances are dirty and this and that. So there's a lot of frustration that we've noticed that wasn't there before when this happened.
I think ਜਦੋਂ market ਉੱਤੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ at that time people didn't care about ਕਿ fridge ਖਰਾਬ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਖਰਾਬ ਹੈ $50,000 $1 ਲੱਖ ਵੱਧ ਕੇ ਆਫਰ ਪੈ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਕੰਡੀਸ਼ਨ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪੇ ਕਰਾ ਲਾਂਗੇ,
right?
ਹੁਣ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਾਰਕੀਟ ਥੱਲੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ financially people are stressed, people are making higher monthly payment, right? Hardly they are able to come up with the down payment as well, so now there are more expectations ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ at least property ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀ ਉਹ on point ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, right?
Absolutely.
And people are not ready to spend even $500 after the fact once they close. They are like, why isn't it like this, right? Exactly. In the past it wasn't a big deal, right? ਤੁਸੀਂ $1 million ਦੀ $2 million ਦੀ property ਲਾਈ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜੇ $500 ਲਾ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਚੀਜ਼ ਠੀਕ ਵੀ ਕਰਾਣੀ ਪੈ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, what the heck? Nowadays people are more like it has to be in a certain order, right?
Yes.
And that's where your job, my job, everyone's job
becomes very tough, because even after the closing we have to deal with these issues. The closing has happened, something is not working, something is not right, and we have to send emails and talk to the other lawyer, ensure that our client, if he's a purchaser, gets a good compensation for any anything that's not working. I think मैं तो सारे sellers ਨੂੰ market जो भी हैं यही कहना चाहूँगा कि please leave your property as you expect to move into a property. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ purchase ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਐਕਸਪੈਕਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਜਾਓਗੇ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਘਰ ਛੱਡਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਲਈ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਛੱਡਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, and it's not that all transactions are bad. ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰੀ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਵੀ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਨੇ, ਮੇਰੇ ਪਰਚੇਜ਼ਰਸ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਸੈਲਰ ਨੇ ਸ਼ੀਟ ਜੀ ਬਣਾਈ ਸੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹਰ ਚਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕਿਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਪੇਪਰ ਤੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਚਾਬੀ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਗਏ ਸੀ. I've even heard of stories where they said that there is extra paint lying in the basement and ਉਹਦਾ ਕਲਰ ਕੋਡ ਇਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਐਡੀਸ਼ਨਲ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਲਾਏ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਲਰ ਕੋਡ. So I think that's a very nice thing, you leave with a good taste, the other person comes and they can start their new journey in their new property. So yeah,
I think the overall customer satisfaction and financial stress ਤੋਂ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਤੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੀ ਟੱਚ ਬੇਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਰੀਅਲ estate lawyers are the ones who are getting least paid in the overall transaction, right?
Yes.
But the expectations are the highest,
Right.
especially when things are going south.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We at the end of the mortgage broker, we realtor, we sare lawyer the gal padan de the lawyer the kam right? And in the very small fee that they are getting paid, they are expected the most, right? So
Absolutely.
ਜਿਹੜੀ afterwards support hundi hai, do you guys bake that cost into the overall transaction as well?
We do. We never charge anything extra from our clients. Doesn't matter कि lender कौन हैगा, doesn't matter कम वाद्या है या कट्या है, खटता तो कदी नहीं है. But no, we've never asked our client to compensate us for any additional time. I think it's the service we have to give. At the end of the day, it is what it is. जे कोई माड़ी situation हैगी है, वो हैगी है. We have to stand by our client at the end of the day, because that's the trust they have placed in us, to do everything right legally, by the book, and even any kind of support we have to provide them after the closing. There are so many times my clients would call me months after this, oh, I forgot to do this, or forgot to do this, how do I do this, ajkal vacant home tax is a very big again issue. Loki bhul jande ne in Hamilton and Toronto, so we can they can forget, so you can guide them through how it's to be done. So I think that's very crucial, because again, you don't think of them as clients, you think of it like, if I was in their place, what would I feel? Do I need that support after closing? 100%.
Because of the market going down, are you seeing a lot of people who are leaving their deposits with the builder? And are you seeing scenarios where builders are suing the clients and going after the clients for rest of their assets?
To be honest, I don't practice litigation, so I'm a pure transactional lawyer. That's something I haven't been able to see. Maybe I can speak with some of my litigation, other lawyers, and maybe get some insight on that. But there are people who have left their deposits, yes, because they're in a financially difficult situation, and it's just bad timing, I guess. It's just sometimes they didn't expect the prices to deflate so badly in properties. So yes, we have seen that in several cases, people leaving their deposits.
Let's talk about the business transaction. What are the things involved in a business transactions right from the beginning? Are you guys involved when the client starts looking for a business, or once they have an offer written, do you guys get involved at that stage? So give me a rundown about a business transaction, how you guys are involved overall.
We do get started with the client when they are looking for a business as well, because we have to let them know what they're looking for, just in terms of the legal things and certain pitfalls that they need to avoid when they're looking for a business. But majority of the work starts from the point when they have to submit the offer, because we have to take care of a lot of terms and conditions that we have to put. So if it's a asset purchase deal or a share purchase deal, it doesn't matter what kind. We have to ensure that the purchasers, for example, are protected, that there is a financing condition, there is a lease review condition, there is a full due diligence condition, there is a financial due diligence condition. So there is financial due diligence that a CPA or a financial analyst has to do. That is to check the health of the business, the declared profits, who are the vendors, for example, what's coming in and what's going out, the profit and loss statement. So there has to be that. There has to be, a legal due diligence condition, where we review all the legal contracts, legal agreements, any lease basically that we have to review. So that, and then we have to do the negotiation. So we have to, whether we're doing it directly with, between lawyers, or whether the clients are negotiating, we have to ensure that we are negotiating, at all times.
I would assume the realtors are the one who are more involved in the negotiations as opposed to the lawyers, or lawyers are also doing.
Lawyers are also involved, simply because, we have to see in terms of timelines, in terms of, what the client is getting. Basically, if let's say last month rent is covered or not covered, then how best to negotiate that. So of course, negotiation has two elements. One is the price element, and one is the element of terms and conditions. So of course, the price negotiations are mostly done by the realtors or the clients. but the terms what we need to have there and the timelines what we need to have there, those have to be negotiated with the lawyers.
Within
Because
the lawyers,
either lawyer to lawyer, or we let the client know that, listen, we need at least this much time to do the legal due diligence, and we can't move forward without it, just period. We have to do, for example, our searches. We have to know whether these assets have lien, whether you're taking additional liabilities on. So we have to ensure that we do those important things, because if you're closing a business without proper searches, or proper due diligence, it can be very problematic for the client. So the work starts from the get-go.
What are the common pitfalls, mistakes you see the buyers are making, especially during a business transaction?
I think not getting the lease reviewed by a lawyer is a very big deal.
So before the transaction get finalized, they are not getting the lease reviewed?
Yes, many a times, because business transactions, you don't specifically need a lawyer. It's recommended. But it's not mandatory. Unlike commercial and residential real estate, where you need a lawyer mandatorily, otherwise you can't close. For business transactions, you don't mandatorily need it. But the problem is, clients, because they think it's not mandatory, or to save costs, they will not get a lawyer. So they won't get their legal due diligence done. They won't get the lease reviewed. And, for example, certain leases can have clauses where HVAC is, the client's responsibility. Right? They are taking the lease, they're buying a business, but they don't know, if the HVAC goes south, they have to get it fixed.
They have to get it fixed.
Right? So those issues, they won't be aware of. For example, terms and conditions, how do you exit a lease, for example? It's not like residential lease. So they think, because if they know about the residential tenancy, the commercial tenancy is same. No, residential tenancy is more favored towards the tenants. However, the commercial tenancies are more favored towards landlords' rights. So there's a very big difference that people don't realize. And I think getting your lease reviewed from a lawyer is very, very essential.
Very essential.
Something, secondly, something that's very, which takes a backseat in many clients' minds is searches. They think that because it's not a real property, like a real estate property, searches are not required. But searches are absolutely crucial. We have to do lien searches. We have to do corporate profile. We have to know what the business is that you're buying. And we have to know whether these assets are liened. If they're already liened, and let's say it's a share purchase, you're assuming those liabilities, when you buy that business. So you're taking liened assets.
No, that's absolutely right. I think I was involved in a business transaction. It was the restaurant was in Barrie. ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਲਾਇੰਟ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫ੍ਰਿਜ ਸੀਗੇ, ਵੱਡੇ ਮਾਈਕ੍ਰੋਵੇਵ ਸੀਗੇ, there was a pizza oven, everything was rented. ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੀਨ ਤੇ ਸੀਗੇ. That was my first time doing a business transaction where I found out ਕਿ $3 ਲੱਖ ਦੀ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਜੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ $1 ਲੱਖ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ appliances ਵਗੈਰਾ ਹੀ ਸੀਗੇ, kitchen ਦਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਸੀਗਾ, ਸਾਰਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਸੀਗਾ, it was all lean, and the client didn't disclose it, seller upfront, right? It was found out later on by the lawyers, you guys, that ਆ ਸਾਰੇ appliances ਵਗੈਰਾ lean, then have you guys discussed it? And at that time I was like, okay, let's find out how we're going to settle this in, right? And either in the price or get the lien off.
And it's not the seller's fault many a times. Like, I'm not saying that they're trying to play dirty. It's just that normal ਬੰਦੇ ਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਊਗਾ, ਹੈ ਨਾ? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਡੀ ਫਾਈਨਾਂਸ ਕਰਾਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ, you see that there is a PPSA fee in that breakdown, but ਕੋਈ ਸੋਚਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ PPSA fee ਹੈ ਕੀ. But what people don't know is that when they finance this, the company has put a lien, the car company or manufacturer has put a lien on your name, so that lien has come. So similar to this car, these assets can be lien. For example, like you said, appliances and this and that. ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਤੇ ਲੀਨ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਹੈ. So if you're buying a business with liened assets, you're taking more liability. So ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ problem ਹੈ in many businesses where the purchaser is not even aware of it. So I think even though it's not mandatory, I think I will go beyond recommended, and always have a lawyer present for your closing, for your business closing, no matter whether you are buying a grocery store or a convenience store, which is like maybe $50,000-$60,000, or something like a huge business worth $2, $3, $4 million. Doesn't matter. always have a lawyer involved. You're only protecting yourself. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ protect ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. It's a very small cost to pay to avoid huge pitfalls down the road. So
you have an added layer of peace of mind, right?
Exactly.
Somebody who's watching out for you, right?
Exactly.
Not just trying to make a big chunk of commission out of the transaction. You're just adding a,
yes,
have a second set of eyes, right?
Exactly.
All the lease and all other documents.
Exactly.
Right?
I think ਇੱਕ lawyers ਦਾ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਉਹ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ negative view ਕਿ ਇਹ ਬਸ ਪੈਸਾ ਲੈਣ ਨੂੰ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ. They're just trying to make money, and that's all they're trying to do. But us transactional lawyers as well, like we're there to protect you. Sada kam hi ehi hai. This is what we do. A CPA gives you tax advice and files your taxes. A lawyer is supposed to look at your agreements before you sign them, just so that you avoid those legal issues later on. Fir ki honda hai, kinne loki nahi karde. And then there are disputes, and then we know Peel Region Court, Brampton Court kinna flooded hai with cases and disputes, right? Because just because so many of them didn't seek legal help beforehand, so you can avoid all of that, and it's all good till it's all good, but when things go bad,
that one case where the client actually needs help,
exactly, and it'll go bad, and that's it, then everything you'll think is in hindsight. So I think बहुत ज़रूरी है lawyer ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ involve करना. Yes, it may cost you a little bit money, but think about it as your insurance. ਆਪਾਂ insurance ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਲੈਣੇ ਆ ਨਾ, and that's for that rainy day kind of thing. So this is similar to that. You're paying for your protection, legal protection. So there's nothing wrong with that. There are ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੇ Bay Street lawyer ਕੋਲ ਜਾਓ, ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੈਸੇ ਖਰਚੋ. There are so many lawyers out there. You can choose who you work with regularly on a regular basis. Jithe comfort banda hai, jithe click honde ho tusi, just work with them. At the end of the day, you're forming a long-term relationship. Kinni baar honda hai, I have assisted my clients in a different transaction, but kai baar oh mainu dooji transaction te dobara engage karde hain because they were happy with the service I gave.
They overall had a good experience.
Exactly. And at that time, whether it costs less or more, they're more concerned about the fact that let's get their work done, because that's more important. So I think mindset with respect to lawyers, I think thoda sa change hona chahiye hai. We're not all bad, we're not all sitting there to just take a lot of money from you. I think appa apni service da hi charge lenne hain jo appa dene hain, and I think most of the lawyers go above and beyond, do good by our clients at the end of the day.
In general, is the business transaction more complex from your perspective than the normal real estate transaction?
100%. The complexity can range, but even the easiest of a business transaction can be equivalent to a tough, complex real estate transaction. So definitely there's a huge difference.
Any myths you come across, like people say, are you going to do this? And the common things that you hear from buyers or sellers from the law perspective.
ਨਹੀਂ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ, because knowledge ਹੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨੀ ਘੱਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੇਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ. We have to tell them, and we have to keep them engaged ਕਿ ਬਈ searches ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਨੇ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ mortgage conditions 'ਚ ਇਹ ਆਇਆ ਹੈ.
So generally people don't know what goes on.
ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ awareness ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ. And I think that is one of the big reasons we always, like I said, we have the vision, and we've always carried that कि client ਨੂੰ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ engage ਕਰਕੇ ਰੱਖੋ, ਦੱਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ transaction 'ਚ ਹੋ ਕੀ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ. So I think because they don't know, so we want to tell them, so we want to educate them.
ਕਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੇਸ ਆਇਆ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਲਾਇੰਟ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਲਾਇਰ ਨੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਐਂ ਕਰਿਓ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੋਇਆ. I think largely ਪੈਸਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਰੋੜੇ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ.
ਪੈਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਪਰੇ ਰੱਖਦੀ ਹੈ, ਪੈਸੇ ਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਲਾਇਰ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ 2000 ਚਾਰਜ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ,
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਤੇ
ਤੁਸੀਂ
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਕਰੋਗੇ. ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਚਲੋ,
ਬਟ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ
ਵੀ ਆਰ ਇਨ ਅ ਸਰਵਿਸ ਸੈਕਟਰ. ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਮਾਰਗੇਜ ਬ੍ਰੋਕਰ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, ਕੋਈ 1% ਚਾਰਜ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਕੋਈ 1% ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ 2% ਵਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਮਾਰਕੀਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਰਾਈਟ? That's let's not talk about that, but I think because that's everyone's practice, however they value themselves.
Beyond
other than money,
service is a very big thing. I've heard from many clients ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਲੋਜ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਜੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਾਇਰ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਸੀ, ਬਸ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਸੀ, ਤੇ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝਾਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਰੂਮ 'ਚ ਬਿਠਾਤਾ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਤੇ ਕਹਿਤਾ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਸਾਈਨ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ, ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਵਾਲ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਪੁੱਛ ਲੈਣਾ. But there's no one actually standing there, you know, or sitting there to explain the documents to them. This is a very common pattern I've seen in many clients.
Are you seeing more of that problem since the COVID? Because सारा कुछ e-sign that dependent हो गया.
I don't think it has anything to do with COVID. Even when we do our remote signings, I do make it a point that I explain each and every document to my client. At the end of the day, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਇਹ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੈ, ਹੈ ਨਾ, and they're placing their signatures, they may have one or two questions. They will ask you those. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਪੁੱਛਣਗੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ, and they wouldn't know, right? I'm not saying a lawyer who's getting the document signed without telling the client ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੁਝ ਗਲਤ ਸਾਈਨ ਕਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that as a client, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਸਾਈਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, you have a right to know what you're signing, and you have a right, you know, to have your lawyer present in front of you to explain you what those documents say.
Are things becoming easier for you because of the e-signing and everything, or it hasn't changed?
They have definitely become easier. You know, there are clients who cannot sometimes travel. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੁਝ health restrictions ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, work commitments ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ. So, you know, we can offer them that service. Of course, we have to comply with Law Society guidelines regarding the verification, you know, regarding, you know, the general KYC of our clients. And as long as, you know, those are all satisfied, those requirements are satisfied, I think it's a very smooth sailing. For so many remote signings, it's become, you know, a very, very easy thing. So I think that flexibility has given us a lot more, and I think we can give better service to our clients.
And I think nowadays we're doing the ID verification as well.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Remotely rather than meeting in person. I think that is saving a lot of time as well.
I think that's saving a lot of time, and I think it's a very big step up from, you know, financial crimes perspective, because and identity fraud perspective, because it's easy to, you know, make a fake driver's license, for example, and you know, honestly, Supreet, I've worked in TD. I can tell you, a fake driver's license and an original one, sometimes the copy is so good that it's difficult to tell. But now the online ID verification requirements are so good. These softwares are robust. You know, they are doing all sorts of checks, you know, so they can catch identity theft very quickly. So I think it's a very good thing. It's a game changer for lawyers to be able to verify identities like this. And I think I would say, even if you're meeting a client in person, you can do it. You know, you can do e-verifications as well.
I'm sure it has its own challenges as well, especially with the old people, right? It's hard for them to follow the instructions and all.
Yes,
right?
it does.
Youth di gal kariye, youth is always there nowadays, you know, cell phones and laptops, they're easy to navigate and everything. They're able to follow the instructions.
Yes.
ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ,
ਬਹੁਤ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ,
but then they can again follow the old method of meeting you in person, right?
Absolutely.
At least there is an option, right?
Absolutely.
On the table.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes, 100%.
And I think going back to the point you mentioned regarding the trust ledger and all, ਕਿ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ clients ਨੂੰ explain ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ and all. I'll tell you personally from my experience, ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ, I remember this and I told this to Ripujit as well. ਮੇਰੇ ਲਾਇਰ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ ਸੀ ਟਰਸਟ ਲੈਜਰ ਤੇ ਕੱਲਾ ਕੱਲਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆਇਆ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਗਿਆ. And when I did my first transaction with Ripujit, and he was explaining me after the transaction ਕਿ ਵੀ this is the trust ledger document and these are all the line items, right? This 37 cents came from here and it went there, and I'm like, I don't care for 37 cents, and he's like, no, but I have to explain you this.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So and every dollar is counted for, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's very crucial to do this, because client ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ transparency ਨਹੀਂ ਰੱਖੋਗੇ, you'll never develop that trust, right? And at the end of the day, I am doing such a big task of, you know, purchasing a home, assisting in purchasing a home for this client. So I need to be able to develop that trust and, you know, have that transparency. ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ draft trust ledger ਭੇਜਦੇ ਹਾਂ client ਨੂੰ. So we'd give them a draft trust ledger that this is the estimated amount we'll need and this is the breakdown of it. And we go through that trust ledger even at that stage. And then when the transaction completes, we send them a final trust ledger. So that ensures that the client, you know, is aware कि मेरे तो 80,000 मंग के अपने ट्रस्ट अकाउंट रखे, एवें नहीं मंगे हुए हवा च, you know, this is the breakdown of that money.
ਕਹਿ ਕੇ $500 ਫੀਸ ਐਕਚੁਅਲ ਚ ਲਏ 3,000 ਹੁੰਦਾ ਨੇ. We have seen it so many times.
Right.
I personally, as a mortgage broker, I have worked with clients ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ 5-5 10-10 transactions ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ.
Right.
ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟਰਸਟ ਲੈਜਰ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ.
ਰਾਈਟ
ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਮੰਗ ਲਈਦਾ ਉਹ ਜੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਜੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਵੇਚਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ. ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਆਫ ਦਾ ਐਂਟੀ ਮਨੀ ਲਾਂਡਰਿੰਗ
ਯੈਸ
ਬੈਂਕ ਸਮਟਾਈਮ ਵਾਂਟ ਵੇਅਰ ਦ ਫੰਡਸ came from, right? And so we need trust ledger document. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਵੇਚਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ, ਉੱਥੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦਿਖਾ ਦਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਪੈਸੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਐਂਡ ਦੈਨ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਲਾਈਕ ਯੂ ਉਹ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ? ਲਾਇਰ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ. ਉਹ ਅੱਛਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਾ, ਸਾਡਾ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਲਾਇਰ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ. ਲਾਈਕ so many time people are unaware and they have done like 5-10 transactions ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਆ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੀ, ਕਿੰਨੇ ਪੈਸੇ ਆਏ, ਕਿੰਨੇ ਗਏ, ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਕਾਊਂਟ 'ਚ ਆਏ, ਕਿੰਨੀ ਫੀਸ ਚਾਰਜ ਕੀਤੀ, ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ.
Yes, and I think it's a very crucial part for any lawyer. I think as a client ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੱਕ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਦਾ, ਇਹ ਜਾਣਨ ਦਾ, and I think it's very important. Everyone should. It just ensures more transparency.
Let's get the discussion on a lighter note now.
Okay.
Other than when you are not being a lawyer,
right?
When Lakshay Khanna is not being a lawyer, what else you like to do?
Well, I love nature. So anytime I get an opportunity, I'll go for a hike.
Oh, nice.
There are so many hiking trails around, Halton region.
That's one thing I haven't done. I don't do hiking.
Yeah. You have to try it out, Supreet. It's honestly one of the most refreshing things in life you'll do. Just take some time out, on a weekend or something, and just go. If you want to go with your kids, I have a dog, so I love to take my dog out on trails. It's so much fun. It's refreshing for the family. And I think hiking is something I just thoroughly love. I do, sometimes go for kayaking as well. I'm nice. Just an adventure junkie. So recently I went to Vancouver Island, and
you just recently came from Vancouver.
Yes, and I kayaked in Covichan Lake. It was such a beautiful experience. There is so much beauty to see, and I think that's a message I would want to give any newcomers to Canada, and even people who've spent many years here. There is so much to see, and there's so much to observe,
especially in Canada.
It's
so
such
much natural beauty.
It's such a beautiful country. I mean, I was there in Vancouver Island for 10 days, and each day I was on a new hike. I went for whale watching. I was kayaking, and I just felt so refreshed. So I think people should, yes, the daily grind is very important. We all have our jobs to do. We all have to make the money, pay the rent or the mortgage. But I think we need to take a step back sometime, take some time out of that life, busy life, and spend time with family or with friends, and go out and see these things and have these experiences. They're so important. They're so refreshing. They're good for your health, obviously, and they're very refreshing because you're getting to try new things.
As a newcomer, especially ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਸੀ, ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਹੱਲੇ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਹਨਾ, they have a urge ਕਿ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ, ਕੁਝ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ. It's very good. They have that mindset. But ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਉਹ mindset ਦੇ ਨਜ਼ਰ 'ਚ ਉਹ ਖੁਦ ਨੂੰ ਭੁੱਲ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ. I feel they are not doing justice to themselves, to their own mental health and physical health.
Absolutely.
Right? They are just working one job to other job, right? And they're thinking about money all the times.
Yes.
ਪੈਸੇ ਜਮਾ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ, ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵੀ ਭੇਜਦੀ ਹੈ, ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਬਣਾ ਲਈਏ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਘਰ ਬਣਾ ਲਈਏ, ਇੱਕ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਦੂਜਾ ਵੀ ਬਣਾ ਲਈਏ, ਦੂਜਾ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਤੀਜਾ ਵੀ ਬਣਾ ਲਈਏ, ਗੱਡੀ ਵੀ ਮਸਟੈਂਗ ਰੱਖ ਲਈਏ, ਰੇਂਜ ਰੋਵਰ ਵੀ ਰੱਖ ਲਈਏ. ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਰਕਲ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਫਸਿਆ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦਾ.
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ. and I think all what you're saying is coming from the heart, and I can understand it because that's exactly how I have been the last 6 odd years. It was a constant grind because you come into a new country and you've challenged yourself and you want to get somewhere. But ki hunda hai, what we don't realize is that goal keeps shifting because because you keep moving up, right? And there are times you'll move down, but you'll keep going up. What you forget is that you have to live your life. ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਹੋਰ ਬੈਟਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਕਰਨਾ, ਉਹ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ. That's all part of life. You have to enjoy, you have to step back and you have to enjoy those moments with friends and family.
Live your life now rather than just waiting to
Exactly.
retire and then enjoy your...
ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਬਸ ਇੱਕ ਘਰ ਬਣਾ ਲਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਕਰ ਲਾਂਗਾ, ਜਾਂ ਮੈਂ 2 ਘਰ ਬਣਾ ਲਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਕਰ ਲਾਂਗਾ. No.
ਹਾਈਕਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣੇ ਜਾਓ, ਬਜਾਏ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ 60 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ 70 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ, ਜਦੋਂ ਗੋਡੇ ਚੱਲੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਗੋਡਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਗਰੀਸ ਮੁੱਕ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਹਾਈਕਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਜਾਓ ਜਦੋਂ ਚੱਲਿਆ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ.
ਐਂਡ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਅੱਜ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਨਾ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਉਮਰ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਊਗਾ. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ, ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ. ਫਿਰ ਬਸ ਉਹੀ ਹੈ, ਛੜੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਰਹੋਗੇ, ਹੈ ਨਾ. ਸੋ ਇੰਸਟੈਡ ਆਫ ਡੂਇੰਗ ਦੈਟ, ਲਾਈਕ ਜਸਟ ਟੇਕ ਸਮ ਟਾਈਮ ਆਊਟ ਆਫ ਯੋਰ ਬਿਜ਼ੀ ਲਾਈਫ, ਹੈਵ ਦੋਜ਼ ਲਿਟਲ ਐਡਵੈਂਚਰਸ. ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਟ੍ਰੇਨੀਅਸ ਕਰੋ, ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਕਰੋ, ਐਂ ਕਰੋ. ਮੈਂ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਆਈਵ ਬੀਨ ਡੂਇੰਗ ਦਿਸ ਫॉर 15 years. I have done mountaineering. I am a certified scuba diver. ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ, ਬਟ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਇੰਨਾ ਇੰਟੈਂਸਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਲ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ, ਬਟ ਐਟਲੀਸਟ ਇੰਨਾ ਕਰੋ ਕਿ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਫਰੈਸ਼ ਫੀਲ ਕਰੋ. ਦੇਰ ਇਜ਼ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਨੈਚੁਰਲ ਬਿਊਟੀ ਇਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ. ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ with so many positives in our mind. So, and one of the positives I think would be a common opinion in so many newcomers and people who've been here is there is abundance of beauty in Canada to be seen. I don't think you have to travel to Europe. I don't think you have to travel south of the border. There is so much to be seen in this country, and it's all different. The Atlantic provinces are so different from the prairies, and from the Rockies, and in British Columbia, the scenery is so different. So I urge anyone and everyone to please go out, spend time with your friends and family, go out and live those experiences, because that is the part of your migration journey to Canada and building yourself in this country.
I actually didn't know that side of Lakshay Khanna. ਅੱਜ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਾ Lakshay Khanna ਵਕੀਲ ਨੇ ਕਾਲਾ ਕੋਟ ਐਵੇਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾਇਆ.
ਅੱਜ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪੋਡਕਾਸਟ ਲਈ ਪਾਇਆ.
ਚਲੋ ਵਧੀਆ. ਨਹੀਂ, honestly I get to learn few new things. Of course we work a lot with each other, so galbaat hundi rehndi hai, transactions and all, but I think especially regarding the business transaction, I get to learn new things. So I'm hoping saadi audience, whether they are newcomers or anyone who is looking to do a transaction, real estate transaction, business transaction, you guys wanna, or just get a second opinion on the current transactions that are going on. If you reach out to Artemis Partners, Lakshay Khanna or Ripujit Singh, they'll be able to help you out and give their unbiased opinion on anything. And I can personally vouch on that. It will be unbiased opinion, whether the transaction is going south for the realtor or the mortgage broker, but they will be on your side. They're not going to sugarcoat things. They're not going to try to sugarcoat things just for the sake of the realtors or the mortgage broker. They will give you their unbiased opinion, and they will be on your side. So thank you so much, Lakshay.
Thank you.
It was
so
a pleasure
much.
having you
Likewise.
to our studio. And
until next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.